I took my boyfriend to meet my parents, only to learn he was my mom's former student. And her affair partner. Now, I'm left picking up the pieces of my trust and family. My boyfriend Derek, fake name, and I met through mutual friends 6 months ago, and we immediately hit it off. He is sweet, funny, kind, and just generally a good guy. He is super extroverted, and I have never seen him dislike or not click with anyone. I mentioned him to my parents a couple times, and they said they were excited to meet him. My parents live a road trip away, so me and Derek had to book a hotel nearby. About 2 weeks ago we dropped all of our stuff in the hotel and arrived at my parents' house. My parents are the most welcoming people you'll ever meet. They have met some of my past significant others in the past and have always been warm and kind. Since both my parents and Derek are charismatic and welcoming, I thought that dinner would go smoothly, but I was wrong. It didn't start off too bad. My parents and Derek seemed a bit awkward, but I assumed he was just nervous. We sat for dinner and my parents asked us a couple questions. How did we meet? How serious is the relationship? Etc., etc. I've never seen Derek stutter or hesitate before this dinner, but he did. As soon as I finished eating, he thanked my parents for dinner and said we had to go. It felt like he was rushing to get out of the house. When we got to the hotel room, he ran to the bathroom and I heard him throw up. He said he felt sick and he was going to head back home, but he insisted I stayed and enjoyed the rest of the trip without him. I agreed since I really missed my parents, and he seemed to want to be alone. I texted him a couple times asking how he was doing / if he felt better, but he didn't reply. After 2 days passed, I started to get really worried that maybe he was really sick and had to go to the hospital or something, so I cut the trip short and headed back home. I went to his apartment and saw he was okay. I asked him how he was doing and why he wasn't replying, and he said he felt fine and that I was overreacting. He told me he still felt sick and he wanted to be alone. I went back home and texted him asking if I did anything wrong and if our relationship was okay since he was acting so weird and cold. A week has gone by since the text message and he has not replied. Derek is the last person I'd expect to ghost me. I'm torn between wanting to give him space and wanting answers. How do I even reach out to him without pushing him further away? TLDR, took my boyfriend to meet my parents. It was super awkward. He got sick and went home early and has been ghosting me since. Update post December 23, 2024. Hey Reddit, sorry I didn't reply to that many of your comments. They were mostly just saying Derek was secretly my brother, which is horrifying, so I wasn't sure how to reply. I tried to reply to questions when I saw them pop up. The past few days have been a mess, but now that everything is settled, I thought I would go on here and update all of you. I took you guys' advice and decided to speak to my parents rather than Derek to discover if maybe they said anything or knew each other in the past, like many of you suggested they might. 4 days ago, I called my mom and told her about Derek's weird reaction after our dinner. I asked for advice or if she knew what happened. She was silent for a moment and I heard her start crying. She started apologizing and I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me at first. Eventually, I got her to calm down and she told me what had happened. My mom is a high school teacher and apparently Derek was her student in his senior year, and she told me that they had an affair. She didn't give me that many details. Honestly, I don't even want to know. All she said is that they only slept together once before she shut it down and that my father knew and they had attended couples counseling years ago to work through this. She cried a lot and said it was her greatest regret. Then she told me she wanted me to break it off with Derek because he brought back really awful memories and she found the age gap concerning. She's one to talk about age gaps. But ultimately she said it was decision and she didn't want her past mistakes to ruin my relationship. I went to Derek's apartment again and he invited me in. He said he had to tell me something, but I stopped him and told him I had already talked to my mom and knew everything. He promised me he had no idea up until the point we had come over for dinner, where he immediately recognized her. He apologized for ghosting me and said he just didn't know what to say and he was scared that he would ruin my relationship with my parents or maybe ruin their marriage. I forgave him but told him that the whole situation was just way too messy for me, and he agreed. So yeah, that's how my past few days have gone down. Honestly, I do kind of miss Derek, but not too much since the whole banging my mom thing is a massive turn off. Thank you for all the replies. I feel like I will never see my mom the same again. How can I work on rebuilding our relationship and trust moving forward?
Story 2. My wife demanded my older kids move out after a minor incident with our toddler. Now, her non-negotiables may have just ended our marriage. I, 43M, have been with to my current wife Amanda, 42F, for the past 6 years and we have 2 daughters, Becca 4F and Eliza 2F, together while I have 2 kids from my previous marriage, Liam, 17M, and Sage, 15F. The divorce was less than amicable and since my ex-wife had more money and a better paying job she was awarded primary custody despite me fighting it. For the last 8 years I've had my older kids every other weekend and on Wednesdays. A few weeks ago, my older kids asked if they could live with us full-time due to issues with their stepdad. Liam especially had come to blows with him a few times, and even their mother thought it would be for the best. I did talk to my wife about it, and I know she wasn't happy as she feels uncomfortable around my older kids, although this is something she neglected to tell me until we had our first child together. Things since Liam and Sage moved in have been hard, and as much as I'd love to get some family therapy, my wife is against it and we're on a waiting list. Before, when my kids would come over, my wife would take our daughters to her parents a lot to give us space, even though I never asked for it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm sure being a step-parent is difficult, but my kids are really good kids. They have straight A's, lots of friends, play sports, and are incredibly respectful. I know I'm biased, but people go out of their way to tell me these things. So it has been terrible watching Amanda nitpick everything they do. Almost as if she's waiting for them to slip up so she can send them back to their moms. We had already gotten into an argument over the holidays due to her trying to push them out of our traditions. Our older daughter Becca is going through a biting phase. Her school wants her to get OT, and I've been working with our insurance since Amanda doesn't like the one at the school, but as always it seems like there's an endless waitlist. So obviously the house is tense and we've all been walking on eggshells. Then yesterday morning, when I was making us some breakfast, we heard a scream and Becca came into the kitchen crying and saying that Sage hit her. Amanda ran into the den where Liam and Sage were and started screaming at them to leave. She was obviously pissed, but Sage told her she was sorry. She had been done with the TV, so had changed it to one of the girls' shows, and Becca got excited and bit her. She said she didn't mean to slap her and felt bad. I immediately calmed down because I think anyone has been there, but Amanda didn't believe her. Sage had a bite mark, for God's sake. Things continued escalating and our girls were crying, and Amanda screamed at both of my older kids to leave. Sage told her she would so she could calm down, and that pissed Amanda off more. Liam and Sage left for a friend's and ended up spending the night there. So for the past day, Amanda has been on one, saying I needed to pack their things and send them back to my ex-wife's permanently. I can't keep dealing with this BS. I told her this morning that it was an accident and she needed to let it go, but she's refusing, even threatening to call the police. She said she could never be comfortable with her babies around Sage anymore and that she didn't feel safe. I laughed because Amanda herself once hit Becca for biting her. She ended up taking the girls to her mom's, and I told my kids to come back. Amanda has been texting me that she'll be back tomorrow and the kids needed to be gone. I was ignoring her, but finally said this was their home and if she was comfortable she could pack up and leave. My parents came over and basically told me I wasn't wrong but shouldn't have said she should leave. I know there are some things you can take back, but at this point I almost mean it. I would hate to deal with another divorce, but Amanda has been so terrible to my older kids the past few weeks I honestly feel like she's become a different person. Edit: just to clarify some things, when we had every other weekend plus Wednesday custody, my wife would take the girls to her parents on Wednesday only, and I would take the youngest to dinner. Before we had kids she'd go to dinner, but our girls aren't the best at restaurants. She would be here on weekends. My son is not violent. His stepdad believed in violence as a form of punishment, which I do not and never did, but that's why they asked to live with me. Sage has gone from apologetic to fully devastated about this. She offered to go back to her mom's as long as Liam didn't have to. I told her that would never be necessary. She did not mean to hit her sister, and Becca was incredibly upset about biting her. We are working on it. But we are a single-income family and I can't afford an OT outside of my insurance. I am probably going to utilize the school's OT, though, despite what Amanda said. Also, our youngest was not planned, but things seemed to be getting better, so we were excited. I did get a vasectomy after that, but I love all my children. OOP comments on the relationship between Amanda and Liam/Sage. When we first got together she was great to them. It was after we had our first daughter that she got cold towards them. She tells me it's unfair to have to live with kids that aren't hers and has told me I need to prioritize our family. It's more than just frustrating. Basically she thinks they're just miniature versions of my ex, which isn't fair. She says she can't trust them and they're not her family. It was not always like this though. I wouldn't have married or had kids with her if I knew she'd end up this way. Update: December 30th, 2024, all 4 of my kids are okay and with me. Amanda is still at her parents' house. My older 2 kids have told me some disturbing things that they've been feeling since moving in full-time. It took me a while to get it out of them. They said they've been uneasy and have felt like if they put a single toe out of line they'd be forced to go back to their moms or be homeless. They've been trying to be good and perfect and nice and they're getting worn down. They say they don't know what changed in Amanda because she used to love them and be kind to them, and I didn't have a good answer, but I told them it wasn't their fault. My son said he's worried that she'll tell the younger ones lies about them or something else, and they were uncomfortable being around the kids even though they love them. My daughter again offered to move back to her mom's if Liam can stay, which broke my heart. Liam said they would live with my parents if they'd have them, which hurt even more. I told them they weren't going anywhere. They said they know how upset I was after the divorce and don't want that, but I told them repeatedly my marriage wasn't their problem to worry about. Meanwhile, Amanda has been texting me nonstop. I've not been responding unless it was about Eliza and Becca. She has said some incredibly cruel things about me, my older two kids, and our relationship. Basically telling me my kids just want us to break up just like their stepdad and I shouldn't let them win. Calling them spoiled and entitled and smart asses who would ruin my life if I keep letting them. I obviously ignored that, but between all this texted me a list she wrote of her non-negotiables for her to move back in. They were all pretty deranged, except one did say she wanted cameras put up in common areas, which I've already decided on and ordered. But other than that, she demanded cutting Sage and Liam out of the will as they will get money from their mom. Which is insane, and also it's hot like we're talking expecting to be able to leave much to anyone. The house is the one I had bought with my ex-wife, she wants to sell it and buy one to start fresh. I want to point out that when we got together I told her I was definitely going to be staying in this house until my kids went to college since it's their childhood home. And now it's our girls' childhood home, so I won't be leaving. They would need to find somewhere else to live when they turn 18. Also insane because she knows I think that's trashy and they turn 18 in the middle of their senior years. She did not want to have to do anything with my older kids, including family events, dinners, and vacations. And yes, that would mean excluding my oldest from any family vacations, pictures, all of that. She does not want our daughters around Sage or Liam. She wants veto power over any extra time or money I'd be spending on Sage and Liam to make sure things stay fair. Probably the most deranged one was that she wants half of the child support their mom is sending put into a retirement account in only her name. It was immature, but I just did the haha thing to that text and she sent some other BS texts to piss me off. I talked to my father-in-law earlier today when he picked up / dropped off the younger girls from church. He seemed annoyed with the whole situation and referred to it as Amanda's little tantrum. Originally the girls were going to go home with them, but they threw a fit. Luckily I'm off work this week to be with them. The sad thing is that Sage and Liam have been avoiding the younger girls, which is devastating for them, but I'm trying to work on explaining everything right now. I did find a therapist for my kids this week. It's out of pocket, but obviously I can't wait longer. I don't know what Amanda is up to. She FaceTimed the girls earlier, but I don't talk to her. I don't know how fixable this is. I told her if she wanted therapy I'd set it up and she was emphatic that was not necessary. I told her that was my non-negotiable, lol. So not a great update, but it's nice to get feedback. I might not update much if things go the way I think they're going, but I have to do what I have to do. Edit: can everyone stop telling me to save text messages? I'm not stupid, guys, I know that.